There was hopefully a bit of closure today for two Manitoba men who were switched at birth nearly 70 years ago. The men were born at the same hospital in Arborg, Manitoba in 1955 and were taken home by each other's biological parents. And today, Premier Wab Kinew made a formal apology in the Manitoba Legislature.
I rise today to deliver an apology that has been a long time coming for actions that harmed two children, two sets of parents, and two families across many generations. I want to welcome two people born in Manitoba to the legislature today. And it's the circumstances around their birth that sent each of them on a journey that is now bringing them home.
The CBC's Sam Sampson joins us now. So Sam, can you walk us through this story, decades in the making?
Yes, okay, so as you mentioned, 1955, Edward Ambrose and Richard Beauvais, both born in Arborg, Manitoba. So that's just north of Winnipeg, if you're unfamiliar with the geography. Pretty small community. They were switched at birth. And so Edward Ambrose is actually Métis, but he was raised by a Ukrainian family, so he was raised to think he was Ukrainian. He was living on the family farm. He has a family now. And then Richard Beauvais is Ukrainian, but he was raised as Métis. And so in his family, he was forced into foster homes. He lived through the 60s scoop and day school. And so he now lives in British Columbia. He's made a life there. So these two men were living completely separately, and they were living their own lives until in 2022, Edward Ambrose, so the man who is still living in Manitoba, the one who was Métis but was living in a Ukrainian family, Ambrose's sister did one of those online ancestry website forms, 23andMe, and she found out that she and Edward were not actually biologically related. It was this man in British Columbia. And so as they did more research, as they dug a little bit deeper, and then with the help of a lawyer, not only did they find each other and put the connection together, but then they also realized that they were switched at birth. And so in Premier Wab Kinew's speech, he kind of gave a little bit of history as well as kind of that invisible string theory where, for example, Beauvais went to a restaurant, a bar, and he was actually served by someone he didn't even realize was his sister at the time. So just throughout these decades, without them even knowing, they were connected in some very subtle ways at some points until 2022 when that was all kind of tied together and then they found out what actually happened back in 1955 in Arborg, Manitoba.
So Sam, this apology has been a long time coming. Why did it take so long?
Yes, so at the time when they figured it all out, the lawyer for the two men asked the provincial government of Manitoba for an apology and compensation. But the government at the time, and I have it here just so I get it right, they said that they had no legal liability in the situation and they would not offer the men any compensation. But there has since been a change of government in Manitoba, and so with Premier Wab Kinew, he must have decided that these men did deserve an apology. And so he specifically apologized, because, you know, you could say you're sorry, but what are you sorry for? He specifically apologized for not caring or protecting those men as children. And then he apologized to their families as well for depriving them of their rightful inheritance of culture, identity, and overall of family. And he gave a little bit more details about how the families are now coming to terms and working with their true identities and cultures.
Eddie and his children have been recognized now as citizens of the Manitoba Métis Federation. He's learning to beat, and he brings his grandson to powwows. Richard has come back to visit Manitoba, going on to form new connections with his newly reunited sisters and family. Richard's daughters got tattoos of the last name, which they now know is their true inheritance, Ambrose.
I just really wanted you to hear that because it just shows not only how these two men are working with what they've now learned, but their families as well. It's such a big deal for Edward Ambrose. He's told my CBC colleagues in Manitoba to be a now member of the Manitoba Métis Federation. And so it's really special what happened here, what happened in Manitoba rather today. Now, as far as compensation goes, the men's lawyer still thinks that compensation should come from the Manitoba government. There is a meeting later on this afternoon with justice officials on the implications of the apology. So we'll bring you the latest when we know more.
Sam, thank you. The CBC's Sam Sampson.